know why. I don't know why we don't do it in like a daily basis. Why do we always do it when things are terrible? So I'm bargaining with God. I'm talking to Rose. I realize I need to call my sister who's in Bloomington. I'm following the ambulance. We get to the hospital, and for like a minute it looks like everything's gonna be okay. Like right when the doctor first comes in, she looks like, yeah, she can like lift up her left hand. He was like, I don't think this was a stroke. And I was like, yes, it is. I know it was. So they like decide to do an MRI. It's a Sunday. It takes the MRI lady forever to get there. And they do the MRI and they're like, oh yeah, she had a stroke. And I'm like, yeah, she sure did. So they give her the TPA, and you know, the brain's really weird. They can't tell you anything when something happens with the brain. They're just like, well, we're just gonna sit and see, you know, all we can do is sit and wait and to see what happens. So that's what we did. And you know, this is during Holy Week of all times. Like, so ex-boyfriend's gonna like rape me and kill himself, and my mom has a stroke, and it's Holy Week. Like everything just happened to be like the greatest, like the perfect storm for such a terrible, terrible situation. Because never would I ever have been at my mother's house had all these things not happened. So, you know, to pass the time when my mom's just like laying there and we're just kind of like watching her to see what she's gonna do. You know, I'm trying to learn the Nicene Creed because on Easter I want to be able to say it, and it's really long. For you people that did not grow up, you know, saying it every day, it takes some time. So I'm trying to learn that. I'm doing the Rosary, Hail Mary. You know, I got all this Catholic stuff going on in my head. And then, you know, that night, the doctor comes in and is like, yeah, all right, well, you know, we'll just wait and see. Some social worker comes in and starts talking about rehab facilities. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I thought of everything in like best case, worst case scenario situation. So I was like, all right, best case scenario, she's gonna go to rehab, she'll get better, and you know, everything will be fine. Worst case scenario, she's gonna be paralyzed on her left side, and that'll be it. So that's how I figured it out in my head. And then the night went on, and she just got worse. I like had gone home to shower for the first time in 24 hours, which is gross. But I got this phone call from my stepdad saying, like, they're taking her for an emergent CT. One of her pupils is fixed and dilated. So he doesn't know what that means, but I do. And I know that means like nothing good. It means that like the pressure in her brain's building up, like she could very well like end up brain dead. So I'm like rushing to the hospital with my little sister, and she's like, what does that mean? And I was just like, nothing good, Laura. So again, I'm like bargaining with God, talking about like, you know, I don't even know what my best case and worst case scenario is right now. Worst case is obviously like she's just like a vegetable forever. So we get there, and when I see my mom, my thought is that, you know, this is it, and that I just want to say goodbye to her. And it was hard because, you know, it's not my mom. Like, that was just someone kind of laying there. Didn't really look anything like her, and she couldn't really like talk or anything. So, and then we like talked to the doctor on the phone, because at the hospital, like, doctors aren't there overnight. They just like call you and tell you terrible things, and then they get to hang up. Really convenient for them. So they were like, yeah, you know, the only way that this can really get better is if we do a craniotomy, you know, take off part of her skull. And he said, you know, but I think we really need to think about her quality of life. And like, quality of life to me means like dead, because in like the hospital where we work, we say quality of life a lot, and it means, you know, like, is this life worth living? And we use that term when like we're trying to help families realize that, you know, you don't want people to suffer anymore. So I heard those 3 words, and you know, it was game over for me. You know, but in the morning we decided, you know, she's either gonna, you know, die with it or die without it, so we might as well try. She was, you know, really young, and you know, she was never sick before in her life, so So we did that, and she, went down to surgery. They took off like all of her like temporal bone, facial bone, like all this, and and then I'm like sitting in the waiting room doing the same thing, like rosary, Nicene Creed, Hail Mary, like I don't know what else to do. This is all I know what to do. This is how I cope right now. And the doctor comes up and says everything went as well as expected. Again, we'll just have to sit and wait, which is what they said all the time. And but we got to go back and see her, and she was on a ventilator, but that wasn't weird to me because our patients are on ventilators all the time. I mean, it was my mom, so that was weird to see, but it wasn't like a foreign concept for me. But what was great is that they had her on a medicine, the Michael Jackson medicine, propofol, which is like really fast acting, so they could turn it off and like kind of assess her neurostatus really quickly. So they turned it off, and they wanted to see if she could respond. So they would ask her questions. They'd say like, Jennifer, can you give us a thumbs up? And she'd be like, and then be like, are you in pain? Like 1 for yes, 2 for no. And then later I was like, oh my gosh, like she's still in there. So then I'd be like, Mom, 3 is I love you. And so she would always, like, when she's laying there on the ventilator, she just would go like this all the time. So that was great. But anyway, so she was on the ventilator for a while, yada yada. I still went to RCIA that week because, I don't know, I mean, there was nothing else to do at the hospital. They just told me to sit around and wait, which I'm really bad at. So I went to RCIA, and I was just like surrounded by this group of people that didn't really know me at all, but like they were all just like so concerned for me and like just like overwhelming me with like love and prayer, and they were there for me unconditionally. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is great. And like I said, it was Holy Week. Father Guy came and like prayed with my mom, who was not even Catholic. So that was pretty great. I also love Father Guy, so I was like, oh my gosh. I also still think that priests are like some like strange higher beings. So I'm like, oh my God, Father Guy is in the same room as me. I also had to like do my first confession. So like as I'm sitting there with my mom, I'm like, Mom, like, what else did I do that was bad? Like, I'm trying to like think of all the things I have to confess. My sister made me confess that I like used to push her down the stairs when we were little kids. And when I told Father Guy, I was like, and I pushed my sister down the stairs, and he was like, recently? I was like, no, when we were kids, but my sister made me tell you. And he was like, okay. So we did that, and then all of a sudden, like, it's Easter Vigil, and this just was like such a culminating moment for me because like I said, I had done everything for the wrong reasons. Like I had done it to complete my checklist. I did it for this like crazy psycho guy, like, and then all of a sudden like everything came crashing down, and I knew exactly like what mattered in life, and it's exactly what people ask for when people are dying. Everyone always asks for the priest, and they want their family. And there's a reason for that, because those are the important things in life. So I had just, had this sudden epiphany about, what mattered. I also, like, St. Joan of Arc just meant so much to me, not just because it was 1 block away from my house, which was really convenient, but like my grandparents and my dad grew up Catholic. They had gotten married there like 50 years before. They had raised 3 Catholic children, and none of them were Catholic anymore. And like the fact that I was becoming Catholic was like their greatest accomplishment in life. They were like, oh my God, we can die like happy people now. They're so cute. And so like I'm getting ready for Easter Vigil, and like a girl, I like wanted to wear a white dress because that's what you wear when you get confirmed. And so like a girl, I had picked out like 5 of them, and I had no idea which one I wanted to wear. So I brought all 5 to the hospital, and my mom had been like extubated by then. She was still kind of like really weird, but new enough. So I was like, Mom, like, I need you to help me pick out my confirmation dress. And so I tried every single one on and like, twirled around, and she was like, that one. And I was like, done. And it was like the last one I had picked out too. So I was like, good choice, Mom. So she helped me pick out my confirmation dress, and then I'm sitting in the pew on Easter Vigil, and like my Catholic grandparents are there. I'm surrounded by like all of my family and all of my friends, and I just knew that this was right, and this is how I connected with God. It wasn't like raising my hands and closing my eyes and saying hallelujah or being saved and dunked in like things of water. Like, this is how I connected with God, because it had pulled me through like the worst week, year of life ever. And I just, it made me a better person, just like the priest said. Like, it's not just like your spouse that you want to make you a better person. Like, you want God and you want your religion to make you a better person. So I got confirmed, and I picked the name Jude, because when you look up St. Jude, they say he's the patron saint of hopeless causes or helpless situations, and at the time that's kind of what I was in. But our social worker, Joy, always says like you always have something to hope for. Sometimes you just have to change what you're hoping for. So like that just made perfect sense to me, because I had hoped that my mom was gonna get better. I had hoped that she was just gonna live. So you just always like were changing what you were hoping for. So somehow St. Jude totally made sense to me. So I got confirmed, and that was that. And now I'm Catholic, and it's great. And I get to come and drink wine and tell stories about it. And I still need to learn a lot, and I'm definitely not like a perfect Catholic by any means. But it makes me a better person, and I know it will continue to make me a better person, and that's why I know that it's right. So that's it. Did I talk really fast?
That was awesome. Good job.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just gonna stand
Any
up.
questions for Elizabeth?
Oh yeah.
Mom.
Yeah, my mom. I mean, it's really rough actually still. So her stroke happened on the right side of her brain, and basically like the entire right side of her brain died. So there's, like I said, there's different things to hope for. Like, I'm so grateful that she knows who I am. She can remember like every detail of my childhood and how awesome I am. But I mean, there's just different things that are different about her. She's paralyzed completely on her right side. She lives in a nursing home now, and I mean, you basically just have to learn to unconditionally love a whole new person, because I had to deal a lot with grieving first, because the mom that I had died, and so now, but I get this new mom, and that's what I wanted, and that's what I hoped for, and I love her with all my heart. So she's doing good. Anyone else? It's a boxer, by the way, and she's illegitimate because her mama was, maybe a little scandalous one night, and like went out and found a crazy psycho that maybe wanted to kill himself. I don't know, and all of a sudden she came home with 6 puppies. So now I have this illegitimate boxer, but she's great. Any questions about the Colts or no? Yeah, they were, which is funny because I thought my dad would kind of be weird about it, because my dad's like the greatest man ever. But like when I went through the whole high school thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to youth group, he was like, that's kind of weird, whatever. But like he even went when I got saved or whatever, and he thought it was weird, but he never said anything. He always just like supported me. And then when I said I wanted to do this, because he grew up Catholic, and then just like fell by the wayside. So when I told him I wanted to do this, originally he thought it was a stupid idea because it was, you know, for this guy and that he didn't really like, but he didn't tell me about it at the time. And so he wasn't upset that I was doing it, but he thought it was for the wrong reasons. But now that it's happened and it's good and we can talk about it, and he's really supportive. He like came to my confirmation. Oh, and after confirmation we went to Binkley's and I ate cheese pizza. And it was so good.